सदस्य माधवक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय, रामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गौ गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, नवद्वीप धाम की जय, स्वामी भक्तवृंद की। All glories to the Assembled Lord. All glories to the Assembled Lord. All glories to the Assembled Lord. Thank you very much. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Hare Krishna.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome back to the European Prabhupadanuga Festival 2023 Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we're very, very fortunate, very blessed to have with us today Ishan Prabhu, who is a very, very senior Prabhupada direct disciple, pre-77. And he's got I've talked to him a couple of times privately, and I really, really absolutely love his mood, love the knowledge that he's going to share with us, and especially the direct experience that he's going to share with us about his relationship with Prabhupada. And the whole topic is right spot on our central topic for this unity and cooperation topic of this festival, which is loving Prabhupada. If we get this, we get everything. So, Ishan Prabhu, please first, if you don't mind, taking a little bit of time telling us about who you are. The devotees can get to know each other personally.
Can you hear me? You can hear me? Okay. My name is Ishan Das, and you introduced me in a way. None of us are senior. There are no senior devotees. The senior devotee is Srila Prabhupada, and we are, for the most part, we're all neophytes. We want to learn. We want to become devotees, but, so I'm almost 80 years old, all right? This body. Actually, we're eternal. Older means nearer to the grave. Otherwise, there's no special benefit for being older or having met Srila Prabhupada, just like there are many, many videos remembering Srila Prabhupada, as if Srila Prabhupada is not here. But Srila Prabhupada is a transcendental person, means transcendental to what? It means material time, material place, time and space. So, and our relationship with him is also transcendental, beyond time, beyond space. Therefore, real remembering of Srila Prabhupada is to remember in this way, not as if we're remembering somebody who's dead, who's gone. No. So all of these memories, someone else's Where are all these people today who have recorded all these memories? What is the difference? But for some time, the spotlight is on them, like the spotlight is on me. But actually, each of us has an individual, unique, person-to-person relationship with Srila Prabhupada. And the person can be here maybe 1 week in Krishna consciousness, maybe 1 week, and he can be closer with Srila Prabhupada than someone like myself who was initiated some 50 years ago. We have to understand this. There are no senior devotees. Srila Prabhupada is the senior devotee, and we're his little children. And that's all. So it's very kind of you to relate to me or speak of me in that way, but I want to clarify that. We're just one big family, and we're here to encourage each other under Srila Prabhupada's umbrella. This is my heartfelt feeling. Now, I only looked at the schedule last night, who is speaking and what are the topics. So I didn't have any time to really think about the topic that was assigned to me is loving Srila Prabhupada. But actually, I'm also invited to give another class on the 20th in a few days. So I'd like to deal with that subject of our loving relationship with Srila Prabhupada and that time. And at this time, I would like to talk about something that comes first. Okay. And what is that? It has to do with, one devotee that is also scheduled to speak in this meeting in a few days or whatever, has once called me on the telephone and said, Ishan, when I give a class, I don't just speak, but I do intensive research and I try to deliver Srila. So I did that also. So here's the first part of my class. It's mostly a presentation of things that Srila Prabhupada has said, either in his books or in his lectures, etc. So he says, introduces this subject, Niyamagraha. Has anybody ever heard this word, Niyamagraha? Raise your hand. There, some people have heard Niyamagraha. So Niyamagraha means like this. If I take my car for repairs, they have a checklist when they repair or tune up the car. They have a checklist, and they said, did we do this? Did we check the alignment? Did we check the oil? Did we check the pressure and the steering wheel? Did we check this? So, but the man who's, when I go to the repair shop, very formal, you're not allowed to go into the area where the men are working. You're not allowed to see the man. You're not allowed to talk to the man, but he's serving me. So the idea is that I should be pleased with the service. But actually, he has no thought about me. He's never met me. So Niyamagraha means this same thing, that Srila Prabhupada has given us so many things, a list of things to do, rise early, take bath, attend Mangal Arti, chant 16 rounds, take prasadam, distribute literature, etc. And things not to do, don't do. And there's a whole list. But the purpose of following that list is what? The purpose of that following list, is to give pleasure to our spiritual master, to Srila Prabhupada, and to Krishna. So Niyamagraha, Srila Prabhupada, why does he mention it? Because he feels we need to understand that following the list is not enough, but there should be some desire in our heart to give happiness, to give pleasure to our spiritual master and to Krishna. That attitude, just like the man, not to follow the checklist like the man in the garage who's tuning my car. He's not thinking of me, but he's following the list. So one can say he's doing everything perfectly. But if we look in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 2, purport, what does Srila Prabhupada say? And I quote, word for word, Krishna accepts only the love with which things are offered to him. In other words, the checklist can be perfect, but Krishna wants our love. This is Srila Prabhupada wants our love. We're trying to please Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada. So this is Niyamagraha. Niyamagraha means doing the whole list perfectly. And that Srila Prabhupada introduced this subject many times. Doing the whole list perfectly, but missing the point that in the heart should be a desire to give pleasure, a living desire and a living sense that I'm in touch with my spiritual master and I'm trying to please him. Otherwise, so here's what Srila Prabhupada says about this subject. Here's a lecture on in 1967, New York, January 16, on Madhya Lila, 22nd chapter, verses 31 to 33, and Srila Prabhupada is giving a lecture. So what does he say? It says Krishna is present by his name. He's present by his fame. He's present by his pastimes. He's present by his associates. Anything in Krishna connection, that makes Krishna present in that spot. This is the actual fact. Then Srila Prabhupada says, one has to realize it. That's all. So then, in other words, when we hear Krishna's name, Krishna is there. When we read or hear of Krishna's pastimes, like Krishna book, Krishna is there. But Srila Prabhupada says, it's a fact, but we have to realize it. So then, what does Srila Prabhupada say next? Now, he said, now, when you chant Hare Krishna, if we chant mechanically, then the effect is different. Different means what? Srila Prabhupada said we have to realize that Krishna is present. In this lecture, Srila Prabhupada says, he says it's a fact that Krishna is present in the name, but we have to realize it. Now he's saying, so mechanical, he says, if we chant mechanically, the effect is different. We won't have that realization. Then he says, so, and I quote, mechanical way of chanting is also another offense. Isn't that something? Srila Prabhupada is telling us, I'm reading his words, that we have to realize Krishna's presence in his name, but if, he says, I'll read again, if we chant mechanically, the effect will be different. So mechanical way of chanting is only another offense. So offenseless chanting, I'm continuing with Srila Prabhupada's words, we should be careful that the chanting should be offenseless, and then we shall realize that Krishna is present by his name. He is present. You'll realize, and you'll have the same effect as you expect by meeting Krishna personally. Imagine, Srila Prabhupada saying that if we chant nicely, but we're not mechanically, then here, don't be discouraged, because there's lots of positive, beautiful answers that Srila Prabhupada is giving, and I'll present them. But we should know that mechanical chanting is not what is required from us. We're following the checklist. But what is the missing point? That is that the missing part in following the checklist should not be without this desire to give pleasure to Krishna, to give pleasure to our spiritual master, and to know that they're receiving our desire to please them. This is a living relationship. And this is what Srila Prabhupada, this is the difference between mechanical chanting and chanting with a feeling of affection in our heart. Here's another lecture on this subject. This is in Bombay, India, in 1972, December 26th. Srila Prabhupada giving a lecture. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, verse 8. Srila Prabhupada says, you can discharge your duty, meaning what? That we have duties we promised our spiritual master we'll do. You can discharge your duty very nicely. Yes, doing everything, the whole checklist. But you have to see, Srila Prabhupada says, whether you're developing attachment for Krishna. And then Srila Prabhupada says, what is attachment? Attachment means love. Whether you're trying to satisfy Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada says love simply means to have this desire to satisfy Krishna. In our heart, we're trying to please Krishna. So I'll read again. You can discharge your duty very nicely. That's the checklist we were talking about. Srila Prabhupada continues, but you have to see whether you're developing attachment for Krishna. And attachment means love, whether you are trying to satisfy Krishna. So the man in the store, in the auto car repair, he's trying to satisfy me because they try to satisfy, but they have no sense of connection with me. But the idea is this is the most important aspect of the service. So Srila Prabhupada says in this lecture, whether you're trying to satisfy, this is the test. This is Srila Prabhupada speaking. If that is not done, simply formulas. If you execute the formula, as I explained the other day, Srila Prabhupada says, niyamagraha, without any satisfaction of Krishna. In other words, without having this heartfelt feeling to satisfy Krishna. Then Sutta Goswami says, and this is strong, Sutta Goswami says, it is simply laboring and waste of time. Simply laboring and waste of time. So this doesn't mean that if we do our japa, our sadhana, that it is a waste of time. It means in terms of what Srila Prabhupada is saying, Krishna is present in the name, but we have to realize it. So what he's saying is, unless we have this feeling in our heart, we will not realize it. That's why he's saying waste of time. Not that, of course, we're getting wonderful benefit by chanting Hare Krishna, but in terms of achieving the goal of realizing that Krishna is present in his name. So if we're without that feeling, this is called, Srila Prabhupada, this is called niyamagraha, missing the point, just doing the whole checklist. Okay, so there's some, we have to understand that. We understand that this is, that Krishna consciousness is not a mechanical process. So here's another one. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, lecture on Srimad first canto, 7th chapter, verse number 6. And here's an excerpt of the purport. Okay. Srila Prabhupada writes, and at last, he, Srila Vyasadeva, he saw the remedial measure for souls. That's us, right? Namely, the process of devotional service. It is a great transcendental science. And it begins with this process of hearing and chanting the name, the fame, the glory, etc. of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then Srila Prabhupada says, now it's a little bit, I'm skipping, I'm not yet. This is where I'm going, exactly. And you try to understand this sentence. We'll talk about revival of this, of the dormant affection of love of Godhead does not depend on the mechanical system of hearing and chanting. What Srila Prabhupada is saying here is that mechanical, in other words, revival of the dormant affection of love of God depends on our heartfelt effort to chant for pleasure. It's not and that's what it's dependent on. Our dormant affection, a revival of our dormant affection of the love of God is dependent on our heartfelt desire to give pleasure to Krishna when we chant his name. It's a feeling in the heart, and that's what our revival of our dormant affection depends on. He says it doesn't depend on mechanical system of hearing and chanting. In other words, mechanically doing this will not get us that. But there's something nicer in the next few lines. Srila Prabhupada says, but there's some benefit. He says, But even with the prescribed forms of hearing and chanting, there is at once mitigation of the superfluous and unwanted miseries of material existence. I'll say that again. In other words, even if we chant mechanically, this process is so powerful that even if we're not chanting with heartfelt affection, there will at once be mitigation, at once be of our unwanted misery and of material. In other words, the process is liberating, even if we don't have love. But do we want to spend 50 years chanting and feeling uplifted because it's such a nice process? And as soon as we stop chanting, immediately we're inundated again by the different things we carry in our heart because the love is not there. In other words, we can get liberated in this way from our miseries, but we won't revive our love of God. So these are a few of many quotes where Srila Prabhupada is trying to encourage us that mechanical engagement in Krishna consciousness it's not enough. We won't be able to awaken our dormant love for Krishna. It will give us a nice feeling. It will liberate us from anxiety. These things will evaporate from our heart, our cares and concerns, as long as we're engaged. But we won't develop love of Krishna in that way. The feeling of personal feeling that I have a personal relationship with my spiritual master and Krishna, and I'm trying to please them when I'm chanting. Not officially that he's given us this order. Now you chant 16 rounds there, and I'm trying to please him. No, he means trying like a face-to-face relationship, trying to please somebody, trying to please them. So he's saying, talking about it. So, in other words, okay. So I'm looking at my notes. So Srila Prabhupada has a wonderful answer for us. What is that? Now, give me a second to organize myself. Yeah. Oh, there I am. There I am. So this first section, so the question will arise in our mind. A question will arise in our heart. If mechanical chanting won't work to revive my dormant affection of love for Krishna, if I have to chant with feelings of love, how am I going to go forward? Well, Srila Prabhupada addresses that. He answers this question. Now, on the one hand, Srila Prabhupada, and you may have read and you may have heard, Srila Prabhupada says, there's no love in this material world. Has anyone ever read that or heard that? Raise your hand. There is no love in this material world. That's Srila Prabhupada saying. So we just read that mechanical chanting is not enough and we have to chant with love. And on the other hand, he's saying there's no love in this material world. What do we do with that? If there's no love, I'm in this material world. So Srila Prabhupada says, we're faced with a conundrum, a puzzle. On the first hand, we're here in this material world. there's no love in the material world. But before we can have realization, we have to chant with a loving feeling. So Srila Prabhupada says he has a wonderful answer. How we solve this problem, all right? He says, Srila Prabhupada says, we have so many feelings towards our friends, towards our neighbors. Like I have neighbors that have dogs, and towards their dog and cat, towards their nation, towards their towards nature, towards so many things. So Srila Prabhupada says, it's not our material feeling of affection that is Maya. That's not the Maya, the material feeling of affection. The Maya is that our feelings of affection are being directed towards illusory objects. It's not the feelings that when Srila Prabhupada says there's no love in this material world, he's talking about the objects that people are directing their love towards. But he's not faulting the affection. The affection is good. Our everyday affection is good when it gets transferred. Srila Prabhupada used this word transferred to our spiritual master and Krishna, to Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. Everyday affection, those same feelings of affection that we have had since we were little children, can be directed towards Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. In other words, Krishna consciousness is not about dryly cutting off our feelings. No. Krishna consciousness is about using these same feelings that we now have in our heart, but using them properly. Now I'm going to give you quotes wherein Srila Prabhupada makes this point. Okay? Here's a lecture. Here's the lecture. In Hyderabad, India, 1972, November 26, Hyderabad. November 26, 19. Srila Prabhupada says, listen to this, because it's mind-blowing. Srila Prabhupada says, where am I? Oh, here I am. Everyone has prema, love. These are Srila Prabhupada's words. This propensity to love others, there is everywhere. But that prema, that love, it's originally for Krishna. Nitya Siddha Krishna Bhakti. This is the original prema. But because we are illusion, that prema is being applied or used for so many Maya. These are Srila Prabhupada's words, okay? I'll say that again. This propensity to love others, that is everywhere we have. But that prema, that love is originally for Krishna. That is the original prema. But because we are illusion, that prema is being applied or used for so many Maya. And Srila Prabhupada continues. Prema I have got, meaning you and me. I have got my love. That is a fact. But I do not know where to repose that love. That is my misfortune. Therefore, Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Parityagya Mamekam Sharanam Braja. 1866, Gita. You have, now Srila Prabhupada is quoting Krishna. You have got prema. You apply it to me. Then you'll be benefited. Now, he's not saying that we're going to come to this point. No, his next sentence is, prema is already there. You are simply misusing it. These are Srila Prabhupada's words. Therefore, happy. This is the process. Prema you have got, but you're misusing. But if you take Krishna's word that you give your prema unto me. Again, he says it. Now he quotes 1865. Manmana bhava mad bhakto mad yadshi mam namaskaru. You think of me. No, I'll stay with the lecture. Srila Prabhupada continues. This is the beginning of prema. Always think of me. Quoting Krishna. Now Srila Prabhupada goes on further. I think of my son. I think of my child. I think of my wife. Because there is prema. So if you think of Krishna, then you will increase your prema for Krishna. This is the process. Now, how does it increase? The point is like this. I'm going to speak from my own mind, my own experience, and my own understanding of philosophy. When we have a genuine feeling of affection for our spiritual master, for Srila Prabhupada and Krishna, immediately there's a sense of reciprocation. Okay? We'll feel that he's pleased. We'll feel that Krishna is pleased. And we'll feel their love coming back to us. This is reciprocation. Krishna says, as you approach me, I respond accordingly. Now, that feeling is so nice. We can't have that with anything in the... It's not with prestige that I have, social status, not with my bank account, not with anything. We get some momentary... It's totally different. When we have reciprocation of love from Krishna, immediately it liberates us. Immediately we feel wonderful and we want more. That wanting more is what keeps us fixed. Srila Prabhupada once told me, see this? He went like this. He was pretending he was injecting heroin in his arm. And Srila Prabhupada said, you have seen this? And he was smiling. I was in his room with him in London, not London, Lennon's estate, John Lennon. We were there for a short time. He said, you have seen this? He said, Krishna consciousness is like that. And he was smiling very broadly. That if you get a taste, you'll want more. So he says, here he's saying, this is the beginning, that when we engage in this way, using our everyday affection, we'll get some reciprocation and it'll make us want more. So Srila Prabhupada says, this is the beginning. Just always think of me. I think of my son. I think of my child. I think of my wife, because there is prema, because the ability to love is there. So if you think of Krishna, then you'll increase your prema for Krishna. In other words, if we use our loving capacity, just like how? Have you ever you go to a football game and the team that you're cheering for, they score a point, they score. the whole thousands of people stand up in their seats and they cheer. Why they're cheering? They're cheering because they're feeling happiness for their team. You see, so we cheer for Krishna. You can read Krishna book. We can read Krishna book as information, but when Krishna does something wonderful, we can cheer, we can take pleasure in it. And that is the difference. And that is, so Krishna says, yeah. So Srila Prabhupada says, so if you think of Krishna with love, then you will increase your prema for Krishna. This is the process. And then Srila Prabhupada, but people are thinking, if I do my mechanical sadhana perfectly, very grimly, very determinedly for 50 years or whatever, one day I'll be benedicted with the ability to love. That's what we're taught. I've attended classes for 10, 12 years in Krishna consciousness. That's what we're taught, but that's not right. But Srila Prabhupada says, next sentence, that he says, this is the process. Prema is not, you have to get it outside. What does he mean? It means that it's not going to be something injected into you. You already have this ability to love, but we have to use it, and then we'll become, and when we feel reciprocation, we want more. So it keeps, and our realization will increase according to how much love we put forward. Just like this. If a man goes into business, okay, what is the goal of the business? The goal of the business is to make profit, make money, right? Is that right? So, but a person can't go into business without money. It's called, he needs startup capital. I need 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 to begin my business so I can make 100,000, 1 million. If we go, or you go to the gambling casino, we don't gamble, but people do. You go to the gambling casino and you want to play at one of their tables. What's the goal? The goal is to make money. But if you don't bring money to the table, you can't play. You need to have money to make money. You have to bring something to the table. And this is the idea, what's being said here. This is the beginning. You are prema, love you have got. But prema is not, you have to get it outside. These are Srila Prabhupada's words. Prema is not, you have to get outside. It is already there. It is not that it has to, it is not that he has brought this. Okay, then he explains, just like young boy, young girl. As soon as they meet, there's natural attraction. That is already there. It's not that he has brought this attraction from, and then he pauses. Combination, you put them together, it becomes aroused, that's all. Similarly, Krishna prema is there. These are Srila Prabhupada's words. Similarly, Krishna prema is there. Nitya Siddha Krishna Bhakti Sadhya Kabunoi. It is not by artificial means it's not something that we inject into ourselves. It is not by artificial means we are getting Krishna prema. It is already there. Now, these are Srila Prabhupada's words. So he's trying to tell us that this is how we stop being mechanical, by using the little loving ability that we have in our heart today. And we will feel reciprocation proportionate. We will. And this is how it begins. This is the beginning of prema. Now, here, next quote, lecture, Bhagavad Gita, November, verse 2, chapter 2, verse 25, November 29, 1972. Guess what the first sentence that I copied from this lecture? Quote, you ready? The loving propensity's there already, but we have transferred the loving propensity to Krishna. We have transferred the loving propensity to Maya. So the whole Krishna consciousness process is again transferring the loving propensity from Maya to Krishna. This is the simple method. These are Srila Prabhupada. We have got love for Krishna, but being illusion, being falsely positioned, we're trying to love something which is not Krishna. Now, this should be very, very obvious to all of us hearing these quotes, sentence after sentence, that Srila Prabhupada says we have the capacity to feel affection, to feel love. It is our everyday. We've come from the material world, and we have affection for my shoes. We have affection for my car. We have affection for my dog. We have affection for my cat. I have affection for my bank balance. I have affection for my wife, my children. And he's saying this same affection, you take it and you, what does he say? We have transferred it, that we have transferred the loving propensity to Maya, quote, so the whole process is to transfer the same loving propensity from Maya to Krishna. And this is the simple method. And then we have got love for Krishna. These are Srila Prabhupada's words. But being illusion, we're trying to love something which is not Krishna. Okay. Now, here we go to another. It's very hard because there's a consensus of opinion. Whether you say Prabhupadanuga or this department of followers of Srila Prabhupada or that department of Srila Prabhupada, it doesn't matter. They're all saying the same thing. We have no love, and if I do grimly my service with determination, dry determination, one day, now forgive me for being a little facetious, a little sarcastic, one day a bolt of lightning will come from the sky and I'll have love for Krishna. It's going to be added. Something will be added. Srila Prabhupada says, it is not, it is already there. It is already there. It is not that he has bought this attraction from some shopkeeper. It is already there. Okay, so we use it. And this is the simple process. Srila Prabhupada says, people may say something else, that you just do this, you just do this, you just do this checklist, and you'll have love of Krishna. You won't. That's what Srila Prabhupada is saying when he said, not niyamagraha, not doing checklist, but there's a reason for doing the checklist, that Krishna accepts only the love with which these things are offered to him. And we have the capacity. We have this capacity. So we should experiment with this. We should cultivate in our own little way, each of us. Just like I'm sitting in front of a picture of Srila Prabhupada. Every morning and chanting, Srila Prabhupada used to say, we would chant in front of the deities, not walking around the property. Chant in front of Krishna. Why? because we're trying to please Krishna. Just like the people in the football game are cheering for their team, or they're in the madness of the American society. They go to a meeting where Trump is, and they're all chanting, Trump, 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 Trump. Oh, but what are we chanting? Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. We're showing our love and our affection for Krishna. That is the way we chant. So we have this capacity to do that. Even these foolish people are chanting love for their politician who's doing nothing for them. We can have at least that much love for us. Prabhupada, who's doing everything for us, who's come from the spiritual world just to give us, to teach us and understand. So, okay. So here's the next Srimad Bhagavatam lecture on the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 7th chapter, verse number 7. This was given in Vrindavan in Srila Prabhupada's last days walking among us. September 6, 1976. And what is Srila Prabhupada's first words? Anybody guess? I'll read it. Love is there, but because we have no objective, in other words, wrong objective, because we have no instruction where to place our love, we are loving so many things, up to the dog. Instead of God, we are loving dog. Love is there, he repeats again. So, bhakti means yato bhaktir ad hokshaje. That means, these are Srila Prabhupada's words, that means bhakti means love. Unless you have bhakti, unless you have bhakti, just like you're giving me so many garlands, Srila Prabhupada says. He interjects. Why you are giving me? Because you love me. Otherwise, there's no necessity. He says, otherwise, Srila Prabhupada means, why would you give me these things? And then he repeats, there was no necessity. He says, he talks about somebody who never met Srila Prabhupada, doesn't know. A third person is not coming. He means to give me garlands. But because you have got some love, therefore you are worshiping your spiritual master. So, Srila Prabhupada continues, so bhakti means love. And catch Srila Prabhupada's next sentence. Without love, there's no question of bhakti. That's not my words. That's our spiritual master is trying to help us because we're thinking that we can do this checklist mechanically and we'll develop love. But he's saying, no, because we think we don't have any, because we think material love is different from spiritual love. But Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that we have, chapter 3, that we have this inherently, this eternal loving capacity, but when we come in touch with the mode of passion, this is in the 3rd chapter, that love becomes expressed as a self-centered way of the desire. It's the same love. So we have to know what to do with it. It's not that it's something new. We have it already, but we have to use it properly in order for us to get reciprocation. And then we'll know, oh, this is what I want. I don't want to live without this sense of reciprocation. I don't want to live without this because it's so sweet. I can't get it from anything else. So then we become, Srila Prabhupada said, you have seen this? We become addicted. So he says, okay, going on a little further, Srimad Bhagavatam. I think this is a lecture. No, it's a verse. It's a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 25th verse. No, 3rd canto, 25th chapter. 3rd canto, 25th chapter, verse number 20. And here's the translation of the verse. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. Now listen to the next sentence. But that same attachment that we have for materials, when applied to self-realized devotees, opens the door to liberation. It didn't say different attachments, but they take your loving capacity. You're a human being. You're a human being. You have feelings in your heart. Every day you have feelings. You take that same feeling and you apply, but that same attachment when applied to self-realized devotee. So here opens the door. So yeah, we have to open that door. Now, purport. Here it is clearly stated that attachment for one thing is the cause of bondage in conditional life, and the same attachment, I repeat, the same attachment when applied to something else opens the door of liberation. See? The same feeling in the heart. Now, he says, okay, it won't be ecstatic love of God. Okay, we won't be foaming at the mouth, frothing. Okay, we won't have all my hair standing on end. Okay, my body won't become stunned in ecstasy. But I'll begin to have a sense of reciprocation. And that is so nice, even in our neophyte stage, that we'll want more. And as we give more, we'll get more reciprocation. As we give more, we'll get more realization of how attractive Krishna is, how attractive Krishna's pure devotee is. He'll share his joy and Krishna consciousness with us. He will. We'll be able to understand him. You know, there's one verse, and that's how we learn what love of God is, by association with practice of Krishna consciousness, quote, in the association of the pure devotee, quote, under the guidance of the pure devotee, quote, apprenticeship program, working under somebody's personal guidance. So he said, so that when we begin to have these feelings, trying to actually please Srila Prabhupada, he's right there in his Murti form. He's right there in his picture. He says it repeatedly in our books and in his letters and in his lectures. When he'll reveal himself. What will we see? We'll understand his joy, his joyful enthusiasm in Krishna consciousness. And we'll become, you know what Srila Prabhupada says? 1st canto, 5th chapter, 25th verse. 1:5:25. You know what Srila Prabhupada says? He says that, how do you become a devotee? He says, you know what COVID is? How do you get COVID? You associate with someone who has COVID, you get COVID. You know what Srila Prabhupada's first sentence in that purport is? Quote, pure devotion is as much infectious in a good sense as an infectious disease. You catch it. We catch it. Now, then further on in that same purport, Srila Prabhupada explains what infection means. Srila Prabhupada, infection of the qualities of the pure devotee means to imbibe the taste of devotion in the association of you're in the association of somebody who's got this devotional feeling, and you imbibe it. Like, what does imbibe mean? It means to drink, and also in biology, it means if you put a seed in water, it imbibes the water, it gets swollen with it. Infection means to imbibe. We get the taste from him, he's got it. What did we say every day, every morning? Prema bhakti ahoite avidya vinashayate. Prema bhakti ahoite avidya vinashayate. What does it mean? From him, translation, from him, Krishna prema emanates. What does it mean? It means like sunlight emanates from the sun in the sunshine, filling the whole universe with light. From him, Krishna, love of Krishna emanates. And then from him, ignorance is destroyed. How is it destroyed? It's destroyed if we catch it. So in that same purport, 1:5:25, what does Srila Prabhupada say? Infection means to imbibe the taste in the association of the pure devotee, and that new taste makes all material tastes unattractive. Avidya vinashayate. From him, this love of God emanates, and this, if we can catch it and imbibe it in our heart, all of our material desires will be destroyed. Prema bhakti aha hoite avidya vinashayate. From him, Krishna prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. Then you go to Srimad Bhagavatam. To imbibe the taste of pure devotion, to become infected means you imbibe the taste of his devotion, and it makes other tastes unattractive. Same message. We're singing it every day. So we have to be, but how do we catch it? Okay, so so we have to catch it if we open our heart to him. So it says in the songbook, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in one of his prayers, translation, I offer you, he's praying to his spiritual master, I offer you all respect, for thus I may have the energy by which I can know you correctly. And what does that mean? It means you can begin to understand the heart of Srila Prabhupada, how he's feeling devotional. And what's the next line? I'll say the beginning. I offer you all respect, for thus I may have the energy by which I can know you correctly. Then, by chanting the holy name in ecstasy, all my offenses will cease. So what does that mean? It means that when we can be from him, Krishna Prem emanates. And if we can imbibe that taste, but we have to understand him. then we feel his presence. We feel his presence. That is remembering Srila Prabhupada, feeling his presence, not listening to somebody said that now Srila Prabhupada's dead and gone. You have to listen to me to remember Srila. No, that remembering Srila Prabhupada is here and now, remembering Srila Prabhupada and feeling his presence. And then if I offer you all nice respect and love, I'll be able to understand your feelings. Then I can chant Hare Krishna with the same feeling. This means practicing Krishna consciousness under the guidance of a pure devotee. This means practicing Krishna consciousness in the association of a pure devotee. So people will say, but Srila Prabhupada says he lives forever by his divine instructions and the follower lives with him. I'm following the instructions. But what we're talking about is part of those instructions. These are his instructions. And if we abide by them, we'll be living with him. His instruction is to live with him. So I can go. So there. So now, I don't know if so Srila Prabhupada says the same attachment, 3.5.25.20, but that the same attachment, when transferred, is the source of our liberation. So am I going too long? We can stop or I can go further. I have more things to say, but I don't want it to be.
No, Ishan Prabhu.
Yeah.
Sorry, definitely go on.
Okay, because
There's no time limit at all for you.
People are moving in the temple room. I'm thinking I'm putting them to sleep.
Not at all. Everybody's cheering. Everybody's cheering. More people are coming. Ishan Prabhu,
Okay.
this is the most powerful class we've heard, and for me that I've ever heard. So
You will not hear this. You will not hear this. I have not heard this in 10, 15 years going to temples. Because they don't understand the process. Why? I'm getting all this from reading Srila Prabhupada's words, listening to Srila Prabhupada's words. We have to read these books. It's all there. Everything he's saying is there. Now, check this out. Tesham Sat.
Ishan Prabhu, we
Yeah.
love it when we're able to catch the verse. So if you can give us a bit of time to find the verse and everybody can follow the words nicely. It's really
Okay,
nice.
Bhagavad Gita 10:10.
Bhagavad Gita 10:10.
Translation. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, Krishna is saying, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Now, the purport. A part of the purport. A person may have a bona fide spiritual master. He may be attached to a spiritual organization. So today there are so many spiritual organizations. I think PDA, Prabhupada, Anuga, the word Anuga, Prabhupada, the word Anuga means following the heart, the emotional feelings, the devotional feelings of a pure devotee. That is what Anuga means. Prabhupadanuga means following the devotional feelings, learning from my spiritual master, imbibing the taste of his devotion, becoming infected with his devotion. this to be, and using and being saturated with that feeling in my heart, chanting the holy name. This is practicing, this is an Anuga, this is practicing under his guidance. He's teaching us, he's personally teaching each and every one of us. What is love of Krishna? Prema Bhakti, from him is Krishna Prema is emanating. And if we catch it and use it in our spiritual life, our ignorance is destroyed. Do we have to be advanced to do this? No. This is the instruction for us who are neophytes. Anyone can do this. So Srila Prabhupada says in this purport to 1010, a person, but the qualification is that a person always engage himself in Krishna consciousness. How? With love and devotion. And with love and devotion, render all kinds of services. It's not a checklist of services, it's with love and devotion. He should perform some sort of work for Krishna, the purport. And that work should be with love. That's Srila Prabhupada's words. So how do we get this love? So that's going to be more the story of my next class, how we get this love from Srila Prabhupada. But let's go a little further. Here is 9, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 2. Only in the purport, only one sentence I took.
Okay.
All right. You say when. He says, Srila Prabhupada writes. Srila Prabhupada writes, even a leaf, a flower, a bit of fruit, or a little water, which are available in every part of the world, can be offered by any person, regardless of social position. New devotee, senior devotee. There's no senior devotees. We're all children in spiritual life. But by any person, Srila Prabhupada says, regardless of their social, sannyasi, grihasta, brahmachari, it's irrelevant what these titles. I'll read, even a leaf, a flower, a bit of fruit, a little water. Every night before I go to bed, I put a glass of water in front of Srila Prabhupada's picture on my altar. Every night. And anyone can do that, but you do it with, it's not a checklist. No, I look at my list. Have I changed the water? Have I put the new one? No, have I done it with a feeling of affection? Who can't do that? So he says, can be offered by any person, regardless of social position, and will be accepted. It'll be accepted, Srila Prabhupada writes. If what? If offered with love. Okay? Then it goes on. There are many instances in history, simply by tasting tulsi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, like great sages like Sanat Kumar became great devotees. Therefore, the purport continues, the devotional process is very nice. It can be executed in a happy mood. I'll come back to that happy mood. And what does Srila Prabhupada say next sentence? God accepts only the love with which things are offered to him. Okay. What is a happy mood? You know, Srila Prabhupada says, maybe, has anyone ever heard this? Krishna consciousness is simple for the simple. Has anyone ever heard that? Raise your hand. Next sentence. Krishna consciousness, one can be Krishna conscious in a second. Has anyone ever heard that? Raise your hand. Next sentence. How does it go? Krishna consciousness is only a matter of understanding and accepting. Has anyone ever heard that? Krishna consciousness is only a matter of understanding and accepting. Has anyone heard that? Raise your hand. Well, he said it's in the, you can you Google it or whatever on the book. Now, if I say, you've all heard the philosophy, we've all heard the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Who accepts it? Raise your hand. Okay, so let's talk about acceptance. What is acceptance? Does it mean philosophical acceptance? Logic? It's a nice philosophy. It's aesthetically beautiful philosophy. But what is real acceptance? If somebody says, you won the lottery, okay? You have so many $1 million now, maybe 100 million, maybe $50 million, and they give you the check. And you go to the bank and you cash the check and you tell them, put it in my bank account, and they tell you, this is real. You have now got $50 million in your bank account. What will be your emotional reaction if you really accept that this is true? Now, here's what Srila Prabhupada is telling us, or Krishna is telling us. We are offering you an all-expense-paid trip to Krishna Loka. An all-expense-paid trip to Krishna Loka. And you don't have to come back. It's not like, you can stay there for eternity, and you can dance with Krishna. You can wrestle with Krishna. You can hug Krishna. And you can live with Krishna like this for eternity. And we're offering, all you have to do is open your heart. Manmana bhava madbhak. Think of me and become devoted to me. Open your heart to me. Mad bhakti labhate para. No, another verse I'm mixing. He says, surely you will come to me. All we have to do. So if we really, what is acceptance? He says, well, you engage in this process. But if you really believe it, if you really accept it, the measure of acceptance, what is how do we measure our degree of it? How much we engage with a feeling of joyful enthusiasm. Joyful enthusiasm. That means we've really accepted that it's real. Like Srila Prabhupada, what does Srila Rupa Goswami say? Utsahan, nectar of instruction. Utsahan, that enthusiasm. Why? How could you be enthusiastic unless you really believe it's for real? The flies are after me. How can you? But if you believe it's real, you can be enthusiastic. If you're getting some reciprocation, you can be and feel enthusiastic. Then the next thing, confidence. But if you read, but it's not confidence in you or me. Srila Prabhupada explains in the commentary, purport, it's confidence that this is a real process, that it will work, that Krishna is saying this, and it's true. that if I love him, he'll reciprocate. And so I can be, if I have this confidence, then I can be enthusiastic, utsahan. And he says, and patience. Okay, I'm not, I didn't get off the plane yet. I'm still feeling my feet on this material planet. But he said these things are necessary, that there must be this great enthusiasm and confidence that it's a reality, and do it because we have this confidence. This is acceptance. Okay, so anyway, so I wanted to, it just came to mind while I was talking. Now, in, let's see, what was I thinking? So anyway, there's a few more nice quotes. And I wanted to talk about so many things, but, Nectar of Devotion, chapter 22. One of Krishna's qualities, qualities of Krishna further explained. Number 40. That Krishna is controlled by love. Krishna is controlled by love. Imagine, Krishna is controlled by love. Krishna has everything. He's completely purna, full. He's blissful, But he says, in spite of the fact that I'm unlimitedly blissful, Srimati Radharani, she's more ecstatic than me. I want to understand her love. This is in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna is so conquered by love. He can't, so he says, here it says, quote, Krishna becomes obliged by the loving spirit of the devotee, not exactly by the service rendered. See, that's the checklist is there. The checklist, chant 16 rounds, keep the regulative principles, attend Mongol Arti, get up early, take a bath, do this, do that, do that, on and on. But he says, Krishna becomes obliged by what? By the loving spirit of the devotee, and not exactly by the service rendered. Isn't that something? I was thinking, but I've done so much service, surely I'm going to Krishna Loka, but Krishna, he's not attracted by the things we've done. What I can do for Krishna? Oh, I've opened this temple, I've done this, I've distributed 5 million books, I've done this, I've done that, I've raised $1 million, I built the temple of Vedic understanding. So many things I can do. I painted the walls in the temple. I did, but Srila Prabhupada is explaining that Krishna is controlled not by these things, but by love. Krishna becomes obliged by the loving spirit of the devotee, and not exactly by the service rendered. No one can serve Krishna completely, Srila Prabhupada writes. He's so complete and self-sufficient. He has no need of any service from a devotee. He doesn't need our service, but I'll interject, but he likes to be loved. That's why he created us. He likes to be loved. He enjoys it. Otherwise, we have no reason for existing. So it is the devotee, next sentence. Oh, he is so complete and self-sufficient that he has no need of any service from the devotee. And the next sentence is the punchline. Punchline. It is the devotee's attitude of love and affection for Krishna that makes him obliged. So we can make Krishna obliged, but not by the things we do, but the way in which we do them, with the spirit in which we do them. It's not a mechanical process. It's not a completion of the checklist. It doesn't work that way. So quote after quote after quote after quote. Why do I talk so much like this? Because I'm trying to learn how to do this myself. Because I'm trying to remember that this is what I have to cultivate. When? At Mongol Arti, while taking my shower, at this time, no, from moment to moment. From moment to moment. Living in this mood. Actually, Krishna tells us, did anybody here ever hear this expression? New Age expression, hey, it's on the web and different websites. Living in the present moment. Has anyone ever heard that? Do you know that Krishna says that we have to live in the present moment in the Bhagavad Gita? Did you know that? I'll give you the verse. Because if we're not in the present moment, why? It's because we're thinking about our to-do list, and we're wondering if will I succeed with what I'm trying to do? Will I fail? How will it turn out? Did I do the right thing? We're thinking. That means that's the mode of passion, thinking about things we'll accomplish, thinking about things. And lamentation means I'm thinking about how things went down, how something unfolded in the past. I tried to do this, it didn't work, I'm heartbroken. If only it could have been this way or that way, now I'd be happy. I'm looking for happiness by thinking of something that's already passed and can never be changed, but I'm thinking like that. That's called the mode of ignorance. Trying to change that which can't be changed and wishing it could be changed. But the mode of passion is that if I can get this accomplished, if I can achieve this, if I can do that, if I can obtain this, then I'll be happy. This is the mode of passion. So Krishna says, he's just saying, did you ever hear this? 1854 Bhagavad Gita, Mad Bhakti Labhate Param. Krishna says, if you can live like this, you can develop devotional feeling for me. Mad Bhakti Labhate. You can become a devotee if you can live in this way. So what is this way? Krishna says that you be joyful in your heart. And of course, the first 1851 to 53, Krishna describes how you become like that. And it's all about the mode of goodness. Srila Prabhupada's first sentence in the purport of 1851 to 53 is that when we become, in my own words, paraphrase, when we become conscious or aware of how the science of Krishna consciousness works, we keep ourselves in goodness. And that goodness is conducive to attaining the Brahma-Bhuta platform. The Brahma-Bhuta is a liberated platform. It's not something that we receive by benediction, but it's something that can be cultivated. Of course, in his purport, Srila Prabhupada does say that anyone who's engaged in pure devotional service is automatically on the Brahma-Bhuta platform. But how many of us are engaged in ecstatic devotional service? So Krishna is saying, and Srila Prabhupada says elsewhere, I have this quote in different places, that Krishna is actually talking to Arjuna, who is already a pure devotee. So he's telling him that you just open your heart to me and everything will be accomplished. But Srila Prabhupada says, but most of us don't have the qualities of Arjuna. Therefore, there are so many steps on the way to becoming a real devotee. And so therefore, we're encouraged to come to the mode of goodness, because in goodness, automatically we're not in passion and ignorance. Automatically we're not hankering and we're not lamenting. So if we come to goodness, then we can be devotional, because hankering and lamenting, you cannot be devotional while you're hoping to achieve something for yourself, or you're lamenting over the loss of something for yourself. It's not possible to be devotional at such a time. These things are mutually exclusive. So Krishna says, if you come to this mode of goodness platform, it opens up and become joyful in your heart. Prasanatma, translated by Srila Prabhupada. Prasanatma, joyful in the heart, joyful. Then we should be living. There's one quote where Srila Prabhupada said, if we're not joyful, we can't become devotional. So anyway, so that utsahan, enthusiasm, confidence, it's a reality. Hooray, I have this opportunity. So we become joyful. So he says, Brahmabhuta prasanatma, prasanat, joyful in the heart. How and what is, then he explains what joyful in the heart means. There's two ways to describe things, negative and positive. The positive is joyfulness. What's the negative? No desiring, no hankering, and no lamentation. Na sochati, na kankshati. That, how can there be no desiring and no lamentation? We're not made of stone or cement. It's because when one becomes joyful in the heart, he's satisfied. He's not thinking about how the future, how to get my satisfaction. He's not thinking if the past was different, today I'd be satisfied. Because he's feeling full within himself. Do you know that Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 17:15 to 17:17, he talks about this. Mana prasada. What is mana prasada? It's in the word for word, Srila Prabhupada talks about mana prasada. He says mana prasada means satisfaction of the mind. And in the verse, he uses the word as serenity, to be serene within the heart, to be satisfied in the mind, mana prasada. He says, this mana prasada, does to be satisfied, does this mean, I really would like to do this, but I'm practicing being satisfied. I'll deny it. I'll deny myself. No, it means being satisfied so that you don't care about anything else because you got everything in your heart. It's it's an inside job. So Krishna says that in 17:17 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, there are people who do this, the impersonalists. They might meditate like that. They feel this internal satisfaction. They're liberated. But they're not doing it for Krishna. They're doing it for themselves. So in 17:17, Krishna says, if you do this kind of he says, this austerity of the mind, in quote, in order to please the Supreme. In other words, we can be like this, satisfied within our heart, feeling happy and content with it, with the desire to please Krishna, because Krishna likes us to be this way. Because there's no other way that we can become devotional. We can't be devotional if we're hankering after this and that. Those hankering and lamenting over this, and those are self-centered. That if it was different. He said, so he says, so he gives this whole list in 51 to 53. Give up anger. Don't eat more than you need. Give up attachment to the fruits of your activity. All these things, he says, if you can do that, you'll reach the Brahma Bhuta platform, where you'll be joyful within your heart. Prasanatma. But how can one practice all those things? How can one practice giving up anger? How can one practice not overeating? How can one practice giving up attachment to the fruits of the activity? Mana prasada. If one can cultivate within one, Krishna says, cultivate this 1717 Gita. If you cultivate this, this is the austerity of the mind in the mode of goodness. It's an austerity. There are different austerities. Krishna doesn't say, now you go to the Ganges where it's melting from the glacier and stand up to your neck in freezing water. He doesn't say you should do that austerity. He doesn't say you should light fires all around you when it's 90 degrees outside or 100 degrees and sit in the middle of these fires. And he doesn't say you should do that austerity. He doesn't say you should starve yourself. He doesn't say you should tie your body up in knots. What is the austerity? He says the austerity that he's feel this happiness, this joyfulness, this inner content feeling within your heart. And that is the austerity of the mind in the mode of goodness. 17. So we have to cultivate. If we can cultivate that feeling, and each of us has this feeling every day, but we don't recognize it. We think that I'm feeling happy because something external has happened. Something has happened in my life. Somebody has given me something. Someone has complimented me. Somebody has smiled at me. Someone has given me a hug. Somebody has given me whatever, Mahaprasadam. We think that the happiness feeling that we're getting is from something outside. But the truth is, it's not. We have access to those same feelings at every moment. And Krishna says we should cultivate, and that is the Brahminical platform. A Brahmin, there are passages. You look at when Rukmini sent the Brahmin to Krishna, come and kidnap me. I only want you for my husband. They want to marry me off to this rascal Shishupal. He said, but I want you to, you're the only. So that Srila Prabhupada launches that Krishna worships the Brahmin. He puts him on his own bedstead and does like artik to him. He feeds him. Why? As Srila Prabhupada explains why Krishna loves Brahminical culture. He says, because Brahmins, they know this art, how to cultivate inner satisfaction of the heart. And Krishna likes it so much. He wants us. And this is what, and why does Srila Prabhupada say? Now, but I'm keeping the 4 regulative principles. You know what Srila Prabhupada says? In the last chapter of Krishna book, or the last couple of chapters, he says, keeping the 4 regular principles is just, I forget his exact words. He says, He's just beginning to basically approach the mode of goodness. Real mode of goodness is a frame of mind. Like how does a Brahmin live? A Brahmin, he receives charitable gifts and donations, and at the end of the day, anything extra, he gives it away. How can he live like that? Because he's satisfied within his heart. He always feels that satisfaction that Krishna will always take care of me. This is a Brahmin. So Krishna says, when you come to that, no more hankering, no more lamenting, you can mad bhakti labhate para. And at that point, when one feels that self-acceptance, that self-love, like it says in Ishopanishad, like unto the sun, he's glorifying the Supreme, like unto the sun, you're like unto the sun, as am I. As am I. We're all beautiful spirit souls, like unto the shining, effulgent spirit souls. And we have to embrace we have to meditate, and we have to contemplate, we have to understand and embrace this. And this is part of this satisfaction of the mind. To live, this is Brahminical. So where Srila Prabhupada says, we have to become Brahminical. And a Brahmin, Srila Prabhupada writes, can become a Vaishnava. But from the mode of passion, it's almost impossible. A real Brahmin who's satisfied within feels love for all living beings. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma na sochati na kankshati, feeling joyful within, no more hankering, no more. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu. And what's the first quality of the Brahmin? Bhagavad Gita 1842. What's the first quality of the Brahmin? Samo. Peacefulness, inner peace. Samodhamastapasho cham shantir arjavamevacha. The first quality is this quality of inner peace. So Krishna says, if you do these things, if you can come, so what is he saying? Na sochati, no desiring. Desiring for what? For things I can achieve, for things I can get, for things I can obtain, for this, for that, for respect from others, for so many things people desire. Well, that desiring means I don't have it yet, but I want it. That's living in the future. And lamentation, na kankshati, that's lamenting over something that already happened. That's living in the past. So Krishna says, na sochati, no hankering, no lamentation. That means living in the moment. How can one live in the moment? If they're satisfied within their heart, mana prasada. Prasanatma, joyful within the heart. Then he can be, because the mind is always looking for satisfaction. If it's not feeling it inside, he's going to be looking to the future and the past. There's nothing we can do about it. But if we're satisfied, we're relieved of looking in the future, in the past. That means we're living in the present. Then mad bhakti labhate param. Now Krishna says, now you can become a devotee. Living in, so every moment, there's 24 hours in the day. How many moments? Live in that. And immediately you can be devotional. Because your mind and heart is free from chasing things that are in the future or chasing things that are in the past. That is beautiful. So then, okay, I'll come back. So then, lecture, May 6th, 1973 in Los Angeles, okay? Los Angeles, May 6, 1973. I think I should wrap up soon because everyone can only take so much at one time, but I'll read this. It's nice. Srila Prabhupada writes, speaks. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yome Bhaktya Prayachati Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati. Krishna says that, he's quoting verse Bhagavad Gita 9:26. Krishna says that, Srila Prabhupada is explaining, Krishna says that a little flour, a little water, little fruit, that's all. If somebody offers me with devotion of love, then I eat. Okay? Now, Srila Prabhupada explains. Krishna is not hungry. And he repeats, Krishna is not hungry. Why? He's self-satisfied. He's Purna. But if his devotee offers him something with love and affection, then he accepts. So do not think like this. Do not think. We have made such sumptuous, nice plate for Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says, then he says, so Krishna must eat. So Srila Prabhupada says, no, there's no such thing, must. You cannot make Krishna must. That's not possible. So here's an important sentence. Krishna will see how much you have love for him, and then he will accept. Otherwise, he'll reject. These are Srila Prabhupada's words. Now, therefore, it's forbidden. Those who are not devotee, those who are not chanting regular, their offering to Krishna will not be accepted. We must be very careful. We must know our position, whether I'm sincerely following the principles of devotion. Then Krishna will accept. Yome Bhaktya Parachati. Bhaktya. Srila Prabhupada said, the real thing is bhakti. So either you offer Krishna prayers or you offer Krishna food stuff. Everything must be along with bhakti, devotion, love. Then Krishna will accept. Now, I'm going to give you my last, unless you cut me off and throw me out of here, but I'm almost finished what I want to tell you today. Check this out. Check this out. This is amazing what I'm going to read to you. This is a lecture based on Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. I see Ramchandra Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 10th chapter, verse number 2, January 17, 1973. Now listen to what Srila Prabhupada said. This will knock your socks off. I could say something. You knock off your dhoti, whatever. So here, Srila Prabhupada's quoting. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. Priti means love. Buddha yogam dadamitam. Bhagavad Gita 10:10. Srila Prabhupada explains, if you're engaged satatam 24 hours without any other engagement. Sarva Dharman Parityagya. He's quoting another verse, 1866. Giving up all other nonsense business, Sarva Dharman, all sense of Srila Prabhupada. Simply if you're engaged in Krishna's business, Priti Purvakam, with love. That's what he said. Not as hackneyed. Now Srila Prabhupada you should listen to this lecture, January 17, 1973. You would be amazed. It's based on Srimad Bhagavatam 1.10.2. Srila Prabhupada says, with love, not as hackneyed. Then he mimics a devotee who's doing a mechanical process. And this is what he says. He's mimicking one of us. He says, oh, here's the duty. I have this duty, right? Chanting Hare Krishna. All right. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada, you'll hear him on the tape. He chants very quickly and indistinctly. Then Srila Prabhupada says, not like that. With priti, with love. Chant every name. Hare Krishna. And here, and then he explains that Krishna is in the name. Here is Krishna. Here is Radharani. That kind of chanting. Quality. Not Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Then he says, not like that. Not like that, he says twice. Priti, which means with love. Then he says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. Priti. Then Srila Prabhupada says, that priti is required. It's required. Then he explains, why is it required? That is the essential quality. Srila Prabhupada says, priti is required. That is the essential quality. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayashyati. 926. Then Srila Prabhupada continues. Real thing is bhakti. Krishna is not hungry in which you can give. Krishna, excuse me, I lost my place. Krishna is not hungry that you will give him some good food and he will eat it, and he will eat. And he will eat it. Then he said, never mind in which way you can give. What Srila Prabhupada is saying, that you can give it anyway. It doesn't means where your heart is not important. He says, never mind. Don't think you can give it in any way. Never mind in any way that you can give. And he mimics one of us again. Oh, here's Puri, halava. Krishna must eat. Srila Prabhupada said, Krishna is not hungry for your Puri, halava. But if there's bhakti, if there's love, then he eats. Okay? Krishna is not hungry for your puri, halava, but if there's bhakti, if there's love, then he eats. Tadaham ashnami. Krishna said, then I eat. If there is bhakti, love, then I eat. So then Srila Prabhupada starts to explain what should be our real attitude when we're making this offering on the altar. He says he's mimicking how we should be. Krishna, what can I do for you? I'm so teeny. You're so great. Still means in spite of the fact that I'm so teeny and you're so great, still, I have tried to do something, means I have tried to offer you something. If you kindly eat, unquote. So Srila Prabhupada says, this is mantra. Real mantra is not so many formalities of mantra. You know, people are trying to do the perfect mantra. Yeah, my wife says I should not wrap it up. Krishna, the real mantra is not so that people are sometimes so concerned to which is this mantra, that mantra. But Srila Prabhupada says, I'm so teeny, you're so great. Still, I have tried to do something devotional. If you'll kindly eat, this is mantra, this attitude. Real mantra is not so many formalities of mantra. Krishna does not say, one who offers me with the Vedic mantras. Never said. Krishna says, bhaktya, with devotion. So, 2 hours. So they said I can speak 2 hours. I'm being reprimanded. And my 2 hours are up. My wife says I should be cut off. Anyway.
You're all right. Keep on going.
So this is, I have 3 more quotes only, okay? And these 3 quotes are about love for the spiritual master, which is the subject of my next talk. Because this is first to convince all of us, including myself, that we have to become devotional and that have to live with these feelings in our heart that cultivating Krishna consciousness is a cultivation. It's not completing a checklist of activity. It's a cultivation. So here's this first report. Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 25th chapter, verse 20, 3:25:1. And this is an excerpt from the purport. A living entity by constitution has the propensity to be attached to something. We see that if someone has no object of attachment, if he has no children, then he transfers his attachment to cats and dogs. This indicates that the propensity for attachment can't be stopped. In other words, we can't just control our senses like that by stopping the this indicates if he has no children, he starts to love a cat or dog. So Srila Prabhupada says, our attachment for material things perpetuates our conditional state. But the same attachment, when transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee, the same attachment, when transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee, is the source of liberation. And here it is recommended, Srila Prabhupada writes, that attachment should be transferred to the self-realized devotee, the sadhu. Okay? So Srila Prabhupada, we should feel that, have this loving attachment. So then he said, I'm just trying to convince that our books are teaching, Srila Prabhupada is teaching us that these things are necessary and we have to cultivate them. It's not that simply by doing the checklist, but that these things are there. Lecture, Bombay, 1976, April 12. April 12, 1976, Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 7, Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, chapter 7, verse 1. In Bombay, April 12, 1977. Srila Prabhupada said, this is an excerpt, of course. Srila Veera Raghava Acharya. He has described in his comment he has described that there are two kinds of brahmachari, okay? One brahmachari is Naistika brahmachari. He doesn't marry. Another brahmachari is, although he marries, he's fully under control of the spiritual master, even for sex. He's also brahmachari. Then Srila Prabhupada continues. Therefore, brahmachari means living under direction of Guru. Guru Hitam. And Guru Hitam. Then he begins to explain what it means to live under the Guru. He's simply thinking of benefiting the spiritual master. In other words, he's simply thinking how to please his spiritual master. Unless that position comes, nobody can serve Guru. It's not an artificial thing, Srila Prabhupada said. The brahmachari, now he says how one comes to have this thought, how I can please my spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada, the brahmachari, the disciple, must have genuine love for Guru. He's explaining how we become controlled. The brahmachari, the disciple, must have genuine love for Guru. Then he can be under his control. He doesn't say it once, he says it twice. Then he can be under his control. You see, if you love somebody, you want to please them. It's natural, it's spontaneous. But he said, he continues, this can be possible. How? When one is, now check Srila Prabhupada's words, when one is very thickly related to the Guru. Very thick. It means like you can taste it. It's tangible. It's real. It's living. You're very thickly related. Not officially that I have this checklist, therefore I must get some blessing. No, we have to have genuine love for the Guru that we can taste and be very thickly related. Otherwise, Srila Prabhupada says, ordinary relationship will not do. You see? So this is not my idea. This is, we're being taught like this. Now, check this out. Is a lecture in Mauritius in 1975. I didn't get the date. So he's explaining that, in other words, following rules is not possible. And he's going to explain this here. Just because you want to be a good boy or a good girl, if we want to behave ourselves, it's not possible just to be obedient. Vedic society, quote, Vedic society is based on the principle of love between husband and wife, father and son, king and citizens, and so on. Civilization must be founded on love, not law. He's saying not law. He says By law, you cannot make a person love you. In other words, he can give us laws, but it won't make a first the person must love you, then he will gladly follow your law. That's Srila Prabhupada's words, that when we love, if we cultivate feelings of love for him, it'll be so easy to follow his every instruction, because it'll be spontaneous from our heart. So, let's see. There was one thing I wanted to, there's one quote in the oh yeah, this is the last punchline, okay? This is 2 sentences. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 17, verse 15, purport. He's going to tell you what happens if you love your guru. He's going to tell us what happens if I can love Srila Prabhupada. What will happen if I love Srila Prabhupada? This is Madhya Lila, chapter 17, verse 15, purport. Quote. Should I wait for you to put it on the screen?
Yes, please.
Well, huh?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll wait. I don't mind. This is a huge quote, 2 sentences. Not getting it?
Can you give me the quote again?
I have Madhya Lila, chapter 17, verse 15. I may be wrong.
17, 15.
Yeah. What should I read it?
Go ahead.
Quote, a disciple, I see, a disciple who has actual love for his spiritual master is endowed by the blessing of his spiritual master with all confidential knowledge. That's the first sentence. I'll read it again. He's saying that if we love him, he'll bless us. A disciple who has actual, because it's a reciprocation. He doesn't need anything from us. Of course, he gives us things to do, but it's not exactly what we do. But if we do it as a way of showing, okay, quote, a disciple who has actual love for his spiritual master is endowed by the blessings of his spiritual master with all confidential knowledge. Srila Sridhar Swami has commented that the word from some verse, Nigdasya, means prema vata. The word prema vata indicates that one has great love for his spiritual master. If you give me permission, I'll do one more, which will be just earth-shaking.
Yes, of course.
Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 2nd chapter, verse 18. Purport. This is an excerpt from the purport. Srila Prabhupada is explaining what is initiation. As indicated by the word Manasta, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Huh? 10, 18.
Yeah. 10 to 18. 10 to 18. 2. 18. Yeah. There it is. In the purport, as indicated by the word Manastha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was transferred from the core of Vasudev's mind or heart. From Vasudev's heart, Krishna was transferred to the core of the heart of Devaki. Imagine, that's how Krishna got, because Krishna came from her womb, right? But he didn't, I'm putting my own 2 cents. Krishna came from Devaki womb, but it's really how she received that here, as the Supreme Personality was transferred from the core of Vasudev's mind or heart to the core of the heart of Devaki. Okay? That's how Krishna. We should note carefully that the Lord was transferred to Devaki, not by the ordinary way for a human being. So how was he transferred? By Diksha. Initiation. That's the importance of initiation is mentioned here. This is initiation. Unless one is initiated by the right person who always carries within their heart the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot acquire the power to carry the Supreme Godhead. What happened to the...
Sorry. You're reading my... Sorry. We want to see your animated face and feelings.
Where is it?
Yeah.
Unless one is initiated by the person who carries within his heart the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot acquire the power to carry the Supreme Godhead within the core of one's own heart. Here, therefore, so many things come to mind. Therefore, he must be a Mahabhagavata. Unless, I read it again. Unless one's initiated by the right person who always carries the within his heart the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Mahabhagavata, one cannot acquire the power to do the same thing. He must be a Mahabhagavata, not a nonsense neophyte, the god brother of mine. He must know Krishna personally and the word. They're going down further. Commenting. Where is that? I'm not doing the whole purport, but towards the end, Srila Prabhupada says, commenting upon this verse, I'm looking for it in your, do you see that?
We're looking also, commenting.
Commenting upon this verse.
End.
Yes, there it is. Srila Vira Raghava Acharya writes, okay, Vasudeva Devaki Jatarayor Hridayayur, or forgive my pronounce, Bhagavata Sambandha. Srila Prabhupada said, the Supreme Lord's entrance into the womb of Devaki from the heart of Vasudeva was a heart-to-heart relationship. Now, Srila Prabhupada's explaining Diksha. Diksha is the beginning of a heart-to-heart relationship. We have to have a heart-to-heart relationship with this pure devotee, Prema Bhakti, in order to, from him this love emanates. But in the one who has previous quote, one who has love, actual love, is endowed with by the blessing of the spiritual master with all confidence and knowledge. So what it all ties together. If we have love for him, he reveals himself to us. If we have love for him, we can feel his presence. He's omnipresent. He's the external manifestation of the Lord in the heart. He's omnipresent, and he's regardless of space and time. His transcendental means transcendental to mundane space and time. Srila Prabhupada is our eternal spiritual master. If one has love, everything, he blesses us. And what is that blessing? You know what he blesses us with? Not that he shows us Guru, Krishna. He blesses us with the ability to imbibe the taste of love of Krishna by his association. If you associate with a pure devotee, infection of the means to imbibe the taste of love of Krishna in the so if you hang out, if we associate with him intimately, he will reveal himself to us. And we will begin to understand what love of Krishna feels like. To imbibe the taste means to be infected with the quality of pure devotion, means to imbibe the taste of devotion in the association of the pure devotee. You see, so this is where my next lecture begins. It's the subject of how we learn from him. What is love of God? It's called, he uses a word. There's two kinds of instruction. Objective instruction is philosophy. There's another kind of instruction. Srila Prabhupada writes in Chaitanya, it's called subjective instruction. And the only person who has love of Krishna in his heart and shares that with us by his association, we get instructed in what is this feeling of love for Krishna. Subjective instruction. And this is for the neophyte. It has nothing to do with being advanced. In 1.5.25 of Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada says, the neophyte devotee imbibes this taste in association with then he becomes steady. Then he'll develop taste. Yes, I'm coming. Then he'll develop taste. Then he'll have ecstatic devotion. Then he'll become a pure devotee. And all of these stages go forward in the association of a pure devotee. And that is the purport of this stanza, end of purport 1.5.25. Okay, Hare Krishna. Just trying to encourage you. Just trying to encourage. That's all. Don't feel anything. Just try to understand and think about these things. And when you read looking for these things. And if you want to do this, and you ask for help, how do I do this? Krishna will show you. And if you try to do this, Krishna, if you sit in front of Srila Prabhupada, picture Murti, and you try to chant for his pleasure. And I'll tell you about this. All the great devotees do this for their spiritual master. They chant for the pleasure of the spiritual master. They all do this. And Maharaj Prataparudra came in the presence of Lord Chaitanya in disguise. And he started quoting Bhagavatam, and Lord Chaitanya embraced him and said, don't stop, keep reciting. This is the way we serve our spiritual master. Is one way. His most intimate way.
Ishan, brother, that was absolutely 1 minute.
Well, how can I talk? You can hear me? Can you hear me?
Prabhu, you need to keep your muted.
Oh, Hare Krishna.
Okay, Ishan Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, we absolutely were glued and infused like anything, you know, you were jumping out of the screen like an 18-year-old boy. So would you be happy to give, you know, you're already scheduled to give another one 3 days later or something like that. Would you happy to do another one tomorrow at 5 hours before you started today?
What time is that? Oh, I should, so I did 9 o'clock, 5 hours, it's 4 in the morning for me. That's okay.
Because I got a slot. I was supposed to give the class tomorrow at that time, but we'll benefit so much more to hear from you. Is that okay?
Okay, I'll collect my quotes. You see, I have to talk quotes because
okay.
some people say, if I talk about love, they say, oh, love. Oh, he says, Prabhu, they call me a Sahaji.
Me too.
I won't tell you some of the things they call me. So others who are in high standing, respected, have commanded me not to talk about these things.
Oh, no, please talk more. Yeah,
Anyway,
I know exactly how you feel. I'm a real Sahaja and a real sentimentalist, and I get all I got it. But that's why I'm really attracted to your talks. So would you be tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it. Haribo.
4
Sorry,
o'clock. 4 o'clock.
for you. It will be 11 a.m. for us in Germany tomorrow.
Okay.
And one more request.
Yeah.
Ishan.
Yeah.
I know Mahatma Prabhu has a little question. I'll just 1 second, Mahatma Prabhu, if you're still there. Okay, you prepared very nicely all these quotes. And do you prepare them on your computer and then print it out?
Yeah.
Okay, can you wait a minute, how can we get that?
You just email it to
Gregory
me.
Prabhu.
Email
If you
it to me.
email it to Gregory Prabhu before your class, I can have it on the computer and we can just run off without missing a word.
Well, you know, I changed the order a little bit and I threw in a whole lot of other things from memory, but if you let me clean it up, I'll send you what.
Oh, no, I wasn't talking about that, but that's a good idea. Give me the one you just made now for this class, but the one you'll prepare for tomorrow also.
Oh, I have to go to town on business today, and I may not have so much time, but can I'll get you all this material, but and I can speak tomorrow, but can I get you this material within a couple of days?
Absolutely. Ishan Prabhu, the information for today's class, anytime later. Forget it, just later. Tomorrow's class, if you have a file ready before your class, share it to Gregory. If you don't have a file with quotes, that's fine also. We're very happy to hear from you directly.
Okay, I'm going to be up all night trying to get my quotes together. The thing is, quotes are so important because it makes people nervous if we talk in ways that they're not used to understanding. And then they, you know, and we really want, what do I want? I want us to all do this together and encourage each other. And in other words, if you get this, you can do it better than I can do it. And you're giving me strength by being able to share this. I need your association.
We need you so much more. So thank you so much.
Oh, no, don't think like that. It's not true.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you have these feelings, obviously, we can see. We see, I see that you have these feelings and you have this attachment to Prabhupada and you're able to speak about it from experience. And that's quite different from theory.
You're talking to the most desperate, the most, you know, I ask for help because I need help from my spiritual from Srila Prabhupada. And somehow or other, he's responded by letting me understand these things, which are printed in his books and in his talks. It's right there. Okay. Hare Krishna. I'll send all that. Does anyone else have something to say or
Well, we
to
can't actually because
time?
we've gone straight into the next class and we've got just 2-3 minutes to close this up, open the next class, so we can't allow any questions or answers or anything on the phone.
So next time you cut me off and leave 15 minutes.
I think we'd prefer to hear you more. Let's grab every second we can of you.
I offer my respectful obeisances to everybody here who's giving me this opportunity to share with them. I want this so much. I want your association so much.
Ishan Prabhu, I've got hairs standing all over my body. I don't know if you can see that. So all the thanks and appreciations from us, and we are very much looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. And you saved me.
Will I be sent a link? Will I be sent a
The same link. It's the same link that you got today for all the classes.
Okay.
Same link. See you tomorrow morning. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ishan
Jai.
and his wonderful
Hari
support.
Bol.
Ki.
Kripa Sindhu eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnaveyo namo namaha. Hari Bol.
Vivo. See you in just 1 minute for the next class. Somebody close that.